Good day, everyone. Welcome to this week's edition of the Vise Squad, brought to you by Tobin's Fly Shop and Dr. Slick Tools. This week, we thought we'd go over some of the tools and maybe talk about some vices that we use for tying these flies. And maybe if you're just starting out, where to kind of a good baseline to start out, what you may need, what you may want to get that doesn't maybe come with a kit if you bought a pre-made kit. So we'll get into it. We'll start talking about vices. So what I tie on is a Renzetti rotating vise, which I tie on week to week. This is my main vise that I do tie on. It definitely has some distinct advantages. You can turn the fly where you want it. You can stop it. You can look at it which way you want. It does have a Bodkin holder, which hopefully shows up in the camera here, where I can put my thread if I want to stop my thread and hold it out of the way, etc. The only thing that I really did add to this vise was the material clip, which I find is very important. It's very handy to have one. You can put materials out of the way. They're not flopping around. They're out of your way, so you can continue on whatever step it is you are on your fly. Another type of vise that I do use is a stationary vise. This is a Regal knockoff vise. It has a clamp on it, so I can hold it on my counter or the side of my desk. I tie a lot of worms and stuff, static flies, stuff that I don't need to spin around. Has a nice set of jaws on it, and it does have its purpose. It is handy. If this is what you have, they're great vices to have. The only real disadvantage is that I can't rotate this one, so that's where I kind of pick and choose which fly I'm going to tie with it. There are other vices out there. There's all sorts of vices out on the market. The Norvise is one pretty interesting concept to tie on. I've never used one. They say they're the Cadillac. I've never tried one. I would like to try it one day just to give it a go, but it's definitely a different approach to tying in general. From there, I guess we could talk about bobbins. So there are 100 different bobbins out on the market. These ones are Dr. Slick bobbins. This one's a titanium bobbin, and this one is the stainless steel version, I believe. And they're both got ceramic inside, so it's quite easy on your thread. It doesn't fray your thread at all, as long as you take care of them. I don't know what else to say about bobbins. There's so many different types on the market. I guess it really comes down to comfort. These Dr. Slick ones I quite like. They've really stood up well with the amount that I tie on them. Maybe we could go to scissors now. So scissors, again, like bobbins, there's so many different types on the market. We could go through. Let's see, what have we got here? So these are a set of hair scissors. They're nice and long. I use them for all sorts of different things. I cut different materials with them. If I'm cutting fin skin, let's say, where I want a nice long straight cut, I'll use these, and for hair as well. This is the fine point, needle point Dr. Slicks. And you can get in quite tight and close with these. It's really nice to, if you really want to get in close to your fly, and the razors will do the same thing. This is my go-to. They were until I dropped them on an episode a few weeks back. I don't know if you follow along, you might have heard my scissors hit the floor, and now these ones are in the drawer, unfortunately. And my other go-to pair is the all-purpose Dr. Slick. I just like the length of the blades on them. I find them very comfortable to use, and kind of my go-to for sure. Unless I'm in really, really tight and close, then I'll use the fine point. I also, on my desk, keep around a set of, these are old cheap scissors. I can't remember where I even got them from, but I use these if I'm going to cut something metal, like wire, or some of the tinsels that I use that's metal. I'll use these instead of my good scissors, just because I don't want to wreck the edge on them. But they do have a purpose. I also keep a set of side cutters on my desk as well for cutting wire, which, that's what they're designed for, and they definitely come in handy to have on the desk. We could talk about hair stackers as well. Definitely, if you're just starting out and you want to tie any type of dry fly, definitely a good thing to have around is a hair stacker. They come in, from very inexpensive ones to, kind of a mid-grade one. This is a Dr. Slick one. This is definitely the nicest hair stacker I've ever used, and not just because they sponsor our segments. It's nice, it's heavy, it works really well. It is it definitely worth the money to have. Definitely, if you're going to do any kind of dry fly tying, it's good to have different sizes as well, and you kind of tailor your hair stacker to the size of the fly. So if you're using lots of hair, you want to use a bigger hair stacker. If you're using very little hair, you use a smaller hair stacker. A whip finish tool, also very important to have, unless you're just going to half hitch. You use a half hitch tool, which I don't have one on my desk, but they do come in different types. This is the jumbo handle, I believe they call it, from Dr. Slick. I quite like it. It's just it's nice to, just feels good in your hand versus the thin one. They both do the same job, so really it just comes down to comfort for you and what you have at home and what you're comfortable using. Bodkins, another very important tool. I've got a couple sitting here. So this is a store-bought bodkin, basically a long needle on a handle. I made this one out of a rifle cartridge with a long needle. I use them for just about everything, picking out fibers, gluing, doing all sorts of stuff, getting stuff material picked out and everything. Very, very handy to have on your desk, along with a dubbing brush. So this is a homemade one that I got from a friend of mine. It's basically a popsicle stick with some Velcro on it, and as simple as that is, it is so handy to have for brushing out dubbing on a fly. I also use these cheap wire brushes, a brass wire brush, and it's full of dubbing from brushing out leeches and stuff. But I find that the bristles are soft enough that it doesn't wreck your fly, and it'll still give you the effect you want, and it has a nice handle you can hang on to. What else can we talk about? Let's talk about hackle pliers. So hackle pliers come in every shape and size as well. That's a Dr. Slick hackle plier. This one has rubber on one side and brass on the other, and it holds the material really well. You can find ones that look like this. I have 5 or 6 sets that I've had over the years. It's another style where you can sort of adjust the tension on it and use it as a nice handle to spin it around. Again, comes down to comfort and what you have on hand and how much you're willing to spend, really, because that's in the end what fly tying comes down to. Dubbing spinners. There's all sorts of different dubbing spinners on the market. Ones like this where you can spin it and it's got weight on it. These two, you run your thread through it and you spin them by hand. This one has a bodkin on the end, quite handy. They all do the same job. You can get the turbo twister ones, the shepherd hook ones, and at the end of the day, they all do the same job. And I think it's important to have one if you're going to do any kind of leeches. I use the dubbing spinner quite a lot for if you're going to do any kind of dubbing loop. You have to have it with hair or CVC or dubbing, whatever you're going to use. It's definitely an important tool to have on your bench. And the other one that I've really adopted in the last couple of years is using the material clips, and these are ones that are by Hairline, and the set comes with 2, and you can you put your material in there and you can transfer it back and forth and do whatever you're going to want to do with split threads or dubbing loops or what have you. They do come in, I don't know, there's 3 or 4 real reputable ones on the market that are quite handy to have. And I mean, maybe it's more of an advanced thing once you get more into tying, you start splitting thread and doing different things like that. It's maybe more common to use than if you're just starting out, but definitely a handy tool to have around. Also very important, one of the most things I use on my desk is dubbing wax and cobbler's wax. This stuff is, I use it absolutely every day. It helps hold your material and holds hair like crazy. The dubbing wax will help you with holding your dubbing in when you're doing dubbing loops, etc. So just a few things. Really, I mean, you can buy yourself one of those pre-made kits and they kind of come with a few things, and then, I mean, naturally you just kind of grow as you go, but this was, I think, just a little oversight into maybe a few things that you should have on hand if you're just starting, or if you're looking to advance and maybe grow your skill set a little bit. Yeah, I don't know. If anybody has any questions, I mean, absolutely feel free to reach out and let us know, and we'd be happy to answer any questions. So that's it for today. Thanks to Togans and Dr. Slick. Definitely some pretty awesome tools. They both sell great tools. And if you head over to fishingandoutdoors.ca for the Canadians and .net, I believe is now the American website, you can purchase our sponsors' gear through our online store, and they get a bit of love and we get a bit of love, and everybody's happy. So at any rate, thanks again to our sponsors. Thanks to Rick, and we'll talk to you next time.